Hey everybody, welcome back to the program. It's been nearly 5 years since the release of Tame Impala's Currents, and we finally have a new album. The Slow Rush came out on Valentine's Day 2020, and I gotta say, the overall packaging is some of my favorite of Tame Impala's 4 albums. There's just such a beauty in all the photography and the layout. I also really appreciate the choice to continue using the same font as on previous releases. Getting to the music, Kevin Parker started recording the album around late 2018 in LA, and he says he thinks of this as his LA album. And to me, that really comes through in the music on this record. There's something very poppy, light, fun about it. Now, thematically, the whole record revolves around the idea of time, even down to the cover art, which I see as the sands of time, like literally what are those things called? An hourglass broke, right? A giant hourglass. In the roughly 4.5 years since the release of Currents in 2015, Kevin has really grown up. He's gotten older, and he also got married in 2019, which really made him see the big picture of life, sort of thrusting him into a new phase. He also admits that his albums have gradually gotten more and more personal as he's gained more confidence in what he wants to say, so I think those are important things to keep in mind. He's also stated that he wanted the first song to set out a year, and the last song to be the last hour of that year, basically asking the question, where have we come to? How are we going to go forward from here without losing a sense of self? And so you see that with the opening track named One More Year and the closing song titled One More Hour. The tracks in between all deal with different aspects of time. So in a sense, this is another concept album revolving around time. And so I see the title of the album as being that feeling of time passing as you get older. Basically, time seems to speed up as you age, but we still have like 60, 70 years of this. And so it is sort of a slow rush, sort of a snowball effect, if you will. Okay, so with all that said, let's break this album down track by track. We're starting with One More Year, and I love how it starts out with the title of the song being sung, but in a very tripped out, sort of stretched out way, like being processed through a ton of effects. Musically, the beat really drives this track forward. It gives such great shining moments for his voice, keyboards, and other sonic layers. I just close my eyes and all these visuals come into my mind. I love this opening. Moving on to track 2, we have Instant Destiny, and this song came to him while he was on a new exercise bike. He was literally just zoning out, and all of a sudden he got inspired, left the exercise bike, and then proceeded to write this song. Musically, I love the laid-back feeling of it. It sort of has this blissful romp, which I think really relates to the subject of the song. Kevin says it's about being in love and feeling fearless, sort of diving into the unknown and seeing what happens. About 3/4 of the way into the song, we get this amazing synth breakdown that really reminds me of his work on Currents. Rounding out side A, we have Borderline, and as many of you know, this is a new version of the song, and basically he brought the bass up. He felt like no one was hearing it, and oh my gosh, now you really hear it in the mix more, and I think it's for the better. I love the use of a pan flute throughout this track, and to me it really gets to the core idea of this song, which is being on the edge of the unknown, sort of this, you're about to step off and have an adventure, and that sound to me sounds like the adventure begins. Opening up side B, we have Posthumous Forgiveness, and this is about Kevin's deceased father and realizing why he acted the way he did when Kevin was a kid. And the music reflects this with a heaviness, almost getting into church organ, Phantom of the Opera territory. The instrumental section is intoxicating, just these blaring synths for a few measures before the drums kick back in and just enveloping my eardrums. And they have this hint of a digital skip, almost like on the song Let It Happen. Then the second part is the relief, the sunshine after the rain. This is the forgiveness in the title. This is Kevin grown up, maybe realizing why his dad acted the way he did. Musically, this section is more laid back, drum heavy, but with delicate guitar work. Moving on to track 2, we have Breathe Deeper. Now overall, musically, the piano work and tone leading into and during the chorus just kills me. It sounds so good. I love the hypnotic repeating lyric, I can, believe me. That becomes like a mantra, and it just becomes this very hypnotic resuscitation that I love how rhythmic it is. It almost doesn't even have a melody. I mean, it does, but it's almost more rhythmic poetically. The little intro snippet reminds me of early Tame Impala, but then overtaking it is this very 90s house melody. I feel like I heard it on a Fatboy Slim compilation back in the day, but I love the sort of sonic tension that it adds. Overall, this song has 3 different moments, and I love, what's the word? Manic feeling about it. It's almost like trains of thought keep getting interrupted. All right, rounding out side B, we have Tomorrow's Dust, and this has a beautiful acoustic guitar throughout, and there's like a fragility about the playing that really relates back to the idea of the fleeting nature of now. Also with the guitar playing, there's some fantastic use of congas that sort of create this steady rhythm throughout the song, and on top of which we get these mini layers of Tame Impala sounds, you know, from synths to these fuzzy basses and fuzzy guitars, and just it's all a very glorious tapestry of sound. I just love the mix of electronic and organic instruments. It's like traveling through space, and these elements fly by, hanging out for a little bit, and then they move on. The whole song feels like it's in constant motion until the instrumental breakdown, and we get this gorgeous synths just sort of overtake my eardrums. Opening up side C, we have On Track, and this is our first ballad of the whole record. He was inspired by Supertramp and a little bit of Meatloaf when he wrote this song. I love the use of the flanger effect throughout the chorus. It makes it feel as if the music is flying all around me. Track 2 is Lost in Yesterday. The bass and drums make this song for me. There's some great effects being applied to the drums that make them sound cosmic. Also helping are the addition of these little laser sound effects, which is interesting because he originally intended this to be more of an electronic sound, more of an 80s song, and I can hear remnants of that. I think that also plays into the theme of this song about how nostalgia is a drug that we can get addicted to. Rounding out side C, we have Is It True? And this has what I can only describe as jungle drums and a bit of a Daft Punk vibe, both of which I absolutely adore. Again, the bass and drums make this track for me, and it's the repeating title in the chorus that really is an earworm. It just keeps me wanting to hear this song over and over again. And the shift in gears for the outro to a more jazzy, spacey vibe is also great, and it keeps this song interesting. Moving on to side D, we have It Might Be Time, and it opens with these amazing keyboards that just have this fantastic tone, and I'm doing this action because I hear it in my head right now. And then there's this crazy kind of 70s siren sound. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. And that to me gets to kind of the point of this song. Kevin knows that he's getting older and things have to change. And so, you know, that relates to the title of the song. It might be time. It might be time to start changing my ways, start adjusting my life a little bit. Musically, so many fantastic elements to this. Like I said, the keyboards, the drums on here, again, just, they are so good. They just, they're so good. I love them. And then there's these fuzzed out guitars that just really shine. Track 2 is Glimmer, and this is the shortest track on the album. It has almost a 90s dance vibe about it. And Kevin says this is about having a glimmer of hope, that fleeting feeling of promise, of things might get better. And so I think it's very fitting that this is the penultimate song before we close the album. All right, rounding out the album, we have One More Hour, and this is the longest song on the record. This is Kevin wearing his heart on his sleeve. It starts off with the piano far away with lots of reverb before the song builds in with some crunchy guitars, booming bass, and fantastic drums. Again, with the drums. When we hit the second verse, the piano is more forward and his voice is actually more drenched in reverb. It's like his inner thoughts. But it's the bridge that gives me chills every time I listen to it. It's like the sonic culmination of the 10 years of Tame Impala all rolled into one. The stereo separated drumming during the last chorus is also fantastic. It just surrounds me with his thoughts, sort of like I'm in Kevin's world right now. I think overall, this album is a natural progression from Currents. That was about being in the moment after a breakup, and this is about the next phase in life, moving forward with a partner, but also not sure what the future holds. Currents was also much more sonically experimental, almost as if he needed to go that far in the opposite direction of his previous two albums in order to find himself. I think that mirrors what was happening in his personal life too. But now that he's married and obviously established in the music industry, I see this record as coming back to the center, taking everything that he's learned along the way. It's like he took the drums and groove of The Less I Know The Better and expanded it to a whole album, while at the same time picking out tropes from his first two records. And Currents to me is drenched in synths, glorious and beautiful synths, but they sometimes overtake the music, whereas on this record, there's more organic instruments in the mix, or at least they're more forward on top, and his vocals are clearer than ever. I understand almost everything he's singing without the aid of a lyric sheet. I would say that the one thing that absolutely stands out above everything else are the drums. They are so much more pronounced than on his previous releases, and I love it. From the tone to the use of congas, the rhythms are just fantastic, and Kevin has stated that he explored more rhythms on this album, and for me, it totally shows. He wasn't afraid to double down on his love of the drums, of rhythm. That was his first instrument. For me, I love this record. Every track on here flows to the next, and while I also love Currents, especially for the concept, and I will always love the fuzzed out psych rock of Inner Speaker and Lonerism, but for me, I know he's not going to go back to that well. And so those stand on their own. And I'm okay with that. I didn't expect the Slow Rush to be a return to that sound. And I know some people have felt like, oh, he played it safe, or he's not experimenting as much. And you know, I would agree with you, but to me, this sounds like Tame Impala, but it also sounds new and fresh and different, and that's what I really enjoy. Just like Currents was very different, and I know there are people who didn't want him to make Currents. They wanted him to make another Lonerism, another Inner Speaker, but he didn't. He made Currents, and the Slow Rush is, again, you know, Kevin doing something different. And you have to imagine, you know, there's such a buildup and there's such an anticipation that you're not going to please everybody, and Kevin knows this. But he didn't let that stop him from making what he did. And for him, you know, he was exhausted after this release. He put so much into this, working up for like 24 hours straight just to get it done for the mastering, even pushing the deadline 6 months. It was originally supposed to come out in the summer of 2019, but it just wasn't ready. But I'm glad he waited, and I think if you are on the fence about this record or you weren't blown away by it, give it some time. I feel like you need to let it grow on you. I did the same thing with Currents. There was a few songs I liked on it, but the more I listened to it, the more I dove into what he was saying and what he was trying to craft, I loved it more and more. And so this record is the same thing. I feel like because I've done a little bit more research while I listened to it, understanding his intention with the music, it sort of fast-tracked me to understanding the record and enjoying it more. But, you know, that being said, a record should stand on its own. And You don't have to know what the artist intended in order to enjoy it or to not like it. I think it's fine if you don't like this album. I think it's fine if you find it mediocre or less than what you expected from Kevin. But for me, he did not disappoint. He created something beautiful, both sonically and lyrically, emotionally. Is something I can relate to. And I think at the end of the day, this is going to be one of those albums that I'm going to forever remember 2020. This album, my experience going down to Amoeba, buying it, waiting in line with other people who were buying this very same record on the release date. For me, that's all very special memories that I will imbue on this album. And as I continue to listen to it and play it, it's going to open up like a flower, like a fine bottle of wine, and just it'll start giving off different notes, and I'll start hearing different things. I'll listen to it on headphones, and it'll just continue to give back over the years. And so I just say thank you, Kevin. Thank you for giving us this another great album. I love it. I love it. All right, so that should do it for today. Again, this is just my first impressions. This isn't a full-on review. This was just what I think of it 2 days after the release of the record. But I want to know, you guys have to say, leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite tracks are. If you love this record, if you didn't, let me know why. Until then, thank you so much for watching. I'm your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Hey everyone, thanks again for watching my first impressions of the Slow Rush. If you haven't already, check out my full-on review of Currents. And if you're feeling thirsty, check out my Tame Impala inspired cocktail. Thanks again for watching.